So this is my major project, and so my major project was the cultural identity one. And I'll first start off with my introduction. So my topic is on cultural identity, and we'll be discussing more on racial and ethnic identities, specifically Asian and Vietnamese. Cultural identity is defined as the identity of feeling or belonging to a group. It is part of a person's self-conception and self-perception, and is related to nationality, ethnicity, religion, social class, locality, and or any other type of social group that has its own distinct culture. I chose to discuss these groups more because I felt that these two are more connecting to one another than other identities, and that they blended well with one another. I separated topics for these cultural identities into four categories, which is why there's four sections. So the first one is being a part slash socializing into the cultural group, and I really emphasize the Vietnamese, the ethnicity more here, because I felt that the other questions that I was going to ask later can be answered in a more broader community, slash the Asian community slash the race. The second one is issues within the Asian community. The third one is specifically talking about stereotypes and discrimination and its influences among like Asians. And then the fourth one is issues specifically in regards to Asian Americans. And my artistic approach to this project was to create these as four individual components, and I chose to make these look like fans to really emphasize the racial slash ethnic identity. So if you look closer, like they're folded to look like fans, and I chose this type of paper so it looks more Asian, perhaps. And even though this is four components, after I'm done showing each of them individually, I will put them all together because all four of these pieces can come together and fit like a puzzle. And this was done intentionally to show that while these examples slash ideas can be seen separately, they'll all combine together to identify and explain the cultural identity that my friend and I both have, which is being Asian and having the ethnic identity of being Vietnamese. Designing my major project this way was helpful and helps to further understand multicultural psychology because firstly it helps with embracing identities and to be more knowledgeable about social issues. Multicultural psychology is the systematic study of behavior, condition, and effect in many cultures, so this project can be used to really shed light on the issues in and surrounding the Asian community. I would also like to incorporate the quote from Chapter 3 of How to Be Anti-Racist to support why I believe that this major project is a tool that's helpful for not only for this class but for everyday life. It is one of the ironies of anti-racism that we must identify racially in order to identify the racial privileges and dangers of being in our bodies. Lactants, Asian and African and European and Indigenous and Middle Eastern. These six races, at least in the American context, are fundamentally power identities because race is fundamentally a power construct of blended differences that lives socially. Race creates new forms of power, the power to categorize and judge, elevate and downgrade, include and exclude. Race makers use that power to process distinct individual ethnicities and nationality into monolithic races. This project discusses the idea of identifying as Asian and becoming knowledgeable about the social justice around species anti-racist. So these look like fans, but when you open them up, it's gonna take a while, sorry. They all have their own individual pieces. So this first one is mainly talking about socializing into the cultural group slash more about the ethnic identity, which is why I have a Vietnamese girl wearing an ao dai and a Vietnamese straw hat, along with the Vietnamese flag. And the reason why I chose this flag instead of the national flag of Vietnam is because of the idea that the flag of South Vietnam, which is what this flag is right now, was the flag of the former state of Vietnam. And even though this flag is currently being banned in Vietnam because it is an offense punishable by jail, this flag was the national flag of the former state, and a lot of Vietnamese people who fled from Vietnam during the late 1970s, 1980s see the current Vietnamese flag as being offensive because they see it as being representative of the socialist administration that they oppose and fled. And so from June 2002, the United States have adopted resolutions to recognize the yellow flag, this flag, as the Vietnamese heritage and freedom flag, which is why I decided to use this instead of the flag with the red star right now. And then I drew the Vietnam country. And then I drew the food because like I feel that one of the main thing that really set the Vietnam culture apart from every other culture is the food, and so I draw spring rolls. I'm not really going to talk much about this because I will send a document later, a Google Doc, about everything I wrote. But you can see that I really talked about the questions that I talked to my friends about and how I felt about her question. I incorporated quotes from our lectures and from the readings that we have. And I also talked about how I felt about her response and the things that we learned in multicultural psychology overall. But this is what it looks like, and I'm not going to read all of it just because I will be sending that out along with my project. So this is the first one. The second one is the same concept. It looks like a fan, and when you open it up, it this time is talking about issues with within the Asian community. So I drew about Black Lives Matter because of how anti-blackness is such a strong idea in the Asian community. I drew hair dye, some type of tattoo design and piercings because self-expression is also discouraged in the Asian community. I drew the LGBT flag because of how closed-minded a lot of people in the Asian community are toward LGBT people and transgender. I drew the religion. This is the Buddhist sign. I was gonna draw more religions, but I didn't want to overcrowd everything. But I also talked about how religion is tied within my friends' culture / the Asian community, and I drew whitening cream because of how there's a lot of colorism in the Asian community, and I really asked my friend about how whiteness is valued in the Asian community and how colorist that is. Once again, as like the other one, I wrote a lot for this because I wrote a lot of questions regarding this because I feel like there's so many things within the Asian community that we have issues on, and I really want to see how my friend felt. And so once again, I will be sending that out, but I was really proud of this. Instead of doing 2,000 words, I think I did like 3,500 or something around that. Let me try to check right now. I wrote a lot because this was a project that I was very intrigued about, and it made me really happy. I had a lot of great time doing this. Yeah, 3,568 words. So I feel like it'll be way too much for me to speak on this, and this video is already getting kind of long. Once again, you can already see that the puzzle is already starting to fit. The third one is about stereotypes and discriminations against Asians. So I really focus on the stereotypes that I know of. So I drew a dog because there's a lot of stereotypes of Asians eating dogs, and when I was little, that was actually one of the stereotype that made me very upset because when my dog died, the first thing my close friend told me was that it was my dog was lucky that she died before I was able to eat it. The A+ because of the model minority myth and how Asians are expected to be perfect and have very good grades. The car because we're always told that we're terrible drivers. The eyes because we are always getting stereotyped by our eyes, whether it's too small or that it's too small that we can't see, all that jazz. And also, once again, I wrote a lot about the stereotype and discriminations, and just like all the other components, they incorporated quotes from our reading and how it can be applied to the project, and how my friend felt about her experiences and her answers to the questions I asked, and also my reaction to her responses. And this is 3/4 of the piece, and we're almost done. I'm sorry, that's very long. Lastly, this is issues about being Asian American, specifically being Asian American, and I drew the bald eagle, and then I drew the flag. And for this one, I really talked about assimilating into the white culture, being misidentified as another ethnicity when you're in the United States, because of there's so much ethnicities and culture in the United States, and because it's such a melting pot of culture, like you get misidentified a lot, and also having the struggle of having pride with your identity. And so like this is things I wrote, and when you put all four of them together, they all like make a type of circle. And it's very interesting because, like, let me try to close them right now. Sorry, it's gonna take a while because of how thick everything is. When you fold everything together, like they all fit, and then when you open them up and then set them to back to where they are opened, they all fit together like a puzzle. And this was supposed to represent that while all these issues can be seen as separately, they all fit together to really tell the entire story of how it is to identify as an Asian person slash or Vietnamese person. I kind of really talked more about my racial identity than my ethnicity identity for other questions, because I feel like a lot of Vietnamese things that I was going to talk about you can really imply to any Asians in the United States. So I just focus on my ethnic identity, or my friend's ethnic identity, on the first quadrant, and then the rest of the quadrant was applied more to her racial identity. And that's just how my project is. I had a lot of fun, and I really took my time to be very artistic about it, and I wrote a lot and researched a lot for it, and so I hope you enjoyed it.